Hello all. Coming to you from the Tiny Leaders Reborn Committee, I'm Esper the Completed. I've been on as a consultant for this last half a year, and our league today is a very special one, called the Second Chances Tournament, which is a double elimination tournament. That means when you get knocked out, you have a second chance to still take that number one spot. Twice a year, we get some of our top players together into these private tournaments for glory, and later tourneys down the line. Today, I'm going to be running through the event for my matches. Please enjoy. Starting with first a deck tech, and then running through my 5 matches. Today we're playing Mathas, Fiend Seeker, as my commander. This is a 3-mana 3/3 menace. At my end step, I put a bounty on target creature an opponent controls. For as long as they have a bounty counter, they have when this creature dies, each opponent draws a card and gains 2 life. Our general strategy for this deck is going to be overloading their creatures with removal and powering through them with threats that generate a lot of advantage. In our league today, we have a few broad categories of cards, starting with some of our creatures that generate value. Kroxa, Flage, cards like Barrogoyf and Ajani are going to be some of our primary threats that are actually going to win the game. Some of our backup threats include Ragavan, Ocelot Pride, Nethergoyf, DRC. Getting some nice pressure down really early is never a bad thing to have. As well, into our interaction suite, we have a lot of very versatile removal. Cards like Flame Slash, Prismatic Ending, Ghostfire Slice, Swords to Plowshares are some of the best interaction available in the format, as well as some more specific answers. Cards like Dismember and Sheoldred's Edict can take down indestructible threats like Ketramos, and Sheoldred's Edict and Sudden Edict as well can take down hexproof threats. Molten Collapse as well can destroy some dangerous 1-mana value engines alongside Prismatic Ending. Cards like Retrofitter Foundry or Relic of Progenitus can be issues. As for our enchantments over here, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is another of those endgame threats. Meathook Massacre is another of those interactive pieces. And I want to call out Ripples of Undeath as an extremely powerful card in this deck, filling up the graveyard for cards like Flage and Kroxa, being a value engine when the game goes longer, and digging for our pseudo combo, which is Flage or Kroxa with our land Arena of Glory. This card, putting Flage into play with haste, or Kroxa into play with haste, is an extremely powerful interaction that's very hard to beat, even if you have specific pointed interaction. And that's going to be the a way we see many games close. Over here in our sideboard, we're stacked up fairly well against red, and we have a decent amount of graveyard hate. A few pieces mostly for Ketramos that have a bit of outside use. Silent Gravestone here is going to be only for Ketramos. Only playing the 1 Pyroblast because blue isn't seeing too much play. Disruptor Flute's a very good option. Yeah, a fairly simple deck list with a simple idea behind it. But a lot more nuances in the actual gameplay. As well, we have the 1 Surveil land. This one's a big player in the deck. Let's get into those games. We've got a couple lands. We've got some life gain into this aggro deck. We've got a Fatal Push. This is a pretty good hand. We're going to keep this. Opponent has taken a mulligan. You see a Bloodstained Mire. Into a Plateau, and a Ragavan on one. That should be perfectly fine, given our Fatal Push. We're just gonna get rid of that right now before any shenanigans can happen. Passing it back over. We're gonna see a Sunbillow Verge as a land, and Arabella. That should be perfectly fine. Going back to us. Lead on a Marsh Flats, and we'll just pass it back. These decks often play things before combat, so we want to make sure that we're actually targeting the right things, given the low chance of shenanigans this time around. We're going to fetch at the beginning of combat, go grab our Scrubland. We're just going to take this Arabella out. And no play on turn 3 from our opponent. Going back to us, we're going to land our Verdant, get a DRC down, and we'll send it back. This will eat a lightning bolt, that should be fine. We're going to see no play from our opponent on turn 4 either. Here we're just going to fetch, go grab our Surveil land, and graveyarding a Dismember. Untapping, we're going to hit an Arena of Glory. That's going to go great with this Flage. We already have escape material in the graveyard. We're just going to get that in play. And we're going to slam our commander, sending it back. Felia here on the end step, that shouldn't be a problem. And a Static Prison. That'll take out our commander for now, but that should be fine. I usually like to leave Mathas under the Static Prison, because that card will eventually die, and we don't need him just yet. I'm going to see a Felia attack. Flickering nothing. If they had flickered the Static Prison, Mathas would just be able to block. Taking a little bit of damage, heading back over to us. Finding a Pyromancer, that's a nice draw. Just gonna get that down, discard our Flage. And our Boggart Trawler, making some elementals. Putting up our wall. Ripping a plateau. We can get that down, hold up our Stomp. So we're going to be planning to escape Flage on our next turn. Even if something were to happen, now we've got Barrowglyph, which is also great to Arena. We're going to see a Thraben Charm, exiling our graveyard. Making sure we don't escape Flage. But we've got the secret backup threat. We're going to stomp the Felia here. And they've got multiple types over in their graveyard for our Barrowglyph. That'll be decently sized, especially with this bauble off the top. Looking at a Ghostfire Slice, that's not an issue. We're going to launch in this 4 or 5 Barrowglyph with haste. Swinging in for 8 damage, gaining 4 life, picking up another creature. That should just about close this game up. Don't know how they'd actually get back from here. We're going to pick up a Bowmasters, just in case they have something. That'll be another functional removal spell, as well as another backup threat. While also getting potential lethal on board for next turn. Passing it back. And we're going to see the scoop. Alright, starting here on game 2. We're on the draw because we won last game. We're looking at a 2-lander with a Bowmasters, Long Goodbye, Stomp, Broadside. Hand looks pretty decent. We're going to keep this. Not quite as good as round 1 hand, but this should do well. Opponent mulligans to 6. We're going to see a Bloodstained Mire, and just a pass. Perfect. Something like Ragavan was the scariest threat to this hand, so great that we're not seeing that. We're going to lead on just Delta, Bobble ourselves. And we're going to fetch that away. Getting our own Surveil land. Surveil. It's a great amount of card selection here. We're going to see our opponent grabbing their own Surveil land as well. We're going to draw for the Bauble. Finding both land 3 and a Lightning Helix. It's going to be great for us. See a play of a Voice of Victory. Can't kill that on their turn, so we're probably just going to kill it here on ours. Take a draw. Finding a basic Plains, not a problem. That'll help us into Blood Moon a little bit. We're just going to Helix this Voice, gain back some life, and we're going to send it back. Opponent gets land 3 this time. We're going to see in a Johnny. And we're going to get the turn back. I'm going to untap, draw main. Core Firewalker's a pretty great draw. That one will keep the damage off of us for quite a time. See our opponent fetch, probably just grabbing their Sacred Foundry. Yep. They're going to get land number 4 down. I'm going to see a Cory Steelcutter. That's a pretty scary new card. And we're going to see an Arabella cast, Trigger Cutter. It's a good amount of pressure bearing down on us, but our hand is pretty well set defensively. With our opponent all tapped out here, if Ajani attacks, we can take out Ajani and the cat between the Bowmaster and the pings. So we're going to not do anything pre-combat. We're going to see cat and monk get in. That Arabella does not have haste. We definitely don't want this Ajani to flip if we can't deal with it. So we're just going to take 4 damage here. And we're going to stomp the Ajani there in the end step. Make sure that that doesn't do anything. And then we're going to fetch, go grab our tap land of our own. Hitting a Ghostfire Slice is a pretty great draw. It's just a 1-mana removal spell that'll kill about anything. Get our land down. We're just going to slam our commander. Get our bounty trigger. I'm going to see a Celestial Purge on Mathas here. That's fine. We've already gotten some life and a card out of it. We're going to see a Basri, Tomorrow's Champion. That's a fun one from a pretty recent set. It makes some tokens. But that shouldn't be a problem. We're going to see a Cory Steel Trigger. Before actual attacks, we're going to fetch, go grab another Badlands, and take out the Arabella. Got to make sure she doesn't get that big trigger. We're going to get our life and a card. Hitting the Auriok Champion. Now we've got 2 of our protection from red creatures that gain us life. Which isn't actually all that good into this board full of white creatures, but still powerful cards. Taking our turn back. We're going to hit another land. Never a bad thing. We're going to get our champion down. Just want to get those life gain triggers rolling. And we're going to pass it. Probably going to see a Bowmaster's cast here in combat if nothing more dangerous happens. We're going to see a land drop from the opponent, which means it's pretty unlikely they're triggering Steelcutter, unless it's a 1-mana spell in their hand. Going to go grab a mountain. We're going to see a recast of Arabella. Gain life from that trigger. They do seem to be considering. They probably have a 1-mana spell then. And we are going to see a lightning bolt aimed at our face. We'll get a Cory Steelcutter trigger. Those monks are going to get their prowess triggers. We're going to gain another life for the monk entering, but it's a lot of damage in that card. We're going to see a full swing here. We're going to cast our Bowmaster out, take care of one of these 2/1 threats, as well as making a token, gaining 2 life for the trouble. We're going to take a trade on some tokens, taking a good amount of monk damage. We're going to fetch there in the end step. We're going to hit a Kroxa. It's a pretty powerful card. Got some nice synergy with Broadside Bombardiers. We can attack with Broadside first, and then in the second main, cast Kroxa. Sack it with the sack trigger on the stack. So we're going to slam Broadside here. Get in for our 2 points, gain our life. Then we're going to slam Kroxa in the second main. Getting our champion trigger. Throwing our Kroxa at Arabella, making sure the biggest source of damage is off board, and have a big scary threat in the graveyard ready to come back. We're going to see a cast of a Flage. That's a pretty scary card. Certainly getting some damage in, clearing our Bombardiers. But we're not too concerned about that. It'll come back again and take a good chunk, but we've got a removal spell for it, and they don't have the cards to bring it back a second time. Could be scary in the longer run, but our Croxa should close this game fairly fast. We're going to see a pretty big attack here. We're going to trade a Bowmaster off for one of these tokens and go down to 5. Taking our turn back, finding a meat hook off the top. That's not a bad draw. Pretty good in this matchup. It's not doing too much right now, but it'll be a good tool if something goes wrong. We're going to cast our Bone Crusher, get a bigger threat on board, gain our life back. This will probably get swept up by the Flage, but that's perfectly fine. It means the Lightning Helix isn't coming at our face instead. It's less valuable than our Mathas. And this way we can also hold up our Long Goodbye to take out the Flage still on this turn. We're going to see a Dalkovan Encampment. This one can make some free warrior tokens. Normally a pretty scary card for us, given just the longevity it provides, but into our Auriok Champion it doesn't do too much. We are going to see the Flage escaping here, leaving just a few cards in the graveyard. We're going to gain a life for the Enter, and we are going to see it take down our Bone Crusher Giant. We're going to see the Quarry Steelcutter equipped onto the Flage to give it haste. Pretty strong play. Luckily, we do have the Long Goodbye to take that down. They need 2 more cards in the graveyard for Flage to do much work now. We're going to see a couple of monks attacking here. We're going to take that too. Rip a Seasoned Pyromancer. But we are just going to escape our Croxa, get the biggest body on board, start dealing damage. Hitting them down to 15 life. Passing it back. We're going to see a Giver of Runes hit the stack. That should be fine. We're going to see a Cutter equip. None of this really gets through Croxa. They can push only 1 damage right now, and they're going to leave up protection instead. We're going to untap. We're going to draw a DRC. We're going to attack with our Croxa here. See how much damage they might want to block. Put them down to 12 on the trigger. Eating a Monk token. We're just going to re-slam Mathas here in our second main. We're setting up a little around this Meat Hook Massacre, just in case. We're going to throw a bounty onto their Giver. And we're going to pass it back. We're going to see a tap out for Arabella here. And we'll be seeing no attack. Heading back over to us. We're going to rip a Flage off the top. Great draw. We're going to head into combat. Attack with Croxa and our Mathas. Make them discard. We'll see an Anim Pakal hit the graveyard. If they don't block anything here, they'll be dead to our Flage. We're going to see a chump on the Croxa. And they'll be taking 3 damage. We're going to get our Core Firewalker down. Make sure we got a little more protection. And a bit more life gain. And we're going to get our Flage down. Getting us a life for the Firewalker, a life for the Auriok, 3 life for the Flage trigger, and 2 more life for the bounty. This is the power of life gain into these aggro decks. They really just stop being able to kill you at a point. I'm going to get our Arid Mesa down. We could DRC here, but we're just going to pass it instead. We already got lethal on board, and we want to play around a possible Wrath. We're going to see the re-escape of Flage. Hitting our Croxa, applying a immediate re-equip and attack of Flage into our Croxa, which is going to work. We're not holding the push. Our Croxa's going down here, and we will be taking 7 damage. Well, reduced by the 3 blocking, we'll be taking 4 damage. Heading over to our turn, we're going to crack that Arid Mesa. Round out our mana base. Find an Arena of Glory of our own. We're just going to get that down. Using our Arena of Glory to get a Hasty Flage and a Hasty DRC. Because that card does make 2 red mana to be spent on 2 different creatures potentially. We're going to take out their Arabella. We do no longer have Delirium, so DRC is just attacking as a 1/1. But we're sending in for 16 damage here on this board. And that'll be it. Pretty clean round 1. Alrighty, so here we are in our second match. I'm up top this time. I'm not actually sure how to control that. I'm up here against Gut. We've won the die roll, and this looks like a pretty reasonable hand. Lightning Helix, Ajani are both good into this deck. We've got some removal spells. Looks like a keeper. We're just going to lead on a Bauble on ourselves. Get that free scry action. We're just going to pass the turn, because we wanted that Barrogoyf. Opponent's going to start on a Legion Loyalist, that's fine. That'll be a damage. We're going to crack this in the end step and go get a White Source. Seeing land number 3, that's a pretty good draw. Get our Scalding Tarn down, we're just going to get rid of this Loyalist while we can. Opponent plays a City of Traders. Just going to slam a Screaming Nemesis on board. That'll be scary if it gets a trigger, but we should be able to prevent that. We're going to fetch, go grab our Surveil land. Graveyard a Ripples of Undeath, not quite for this matchup. Ripping a Swords off the top, that's a great draw. Means we can just pass here. We'll see an Arena of Glory out of them. And we'll see a War Boss. We're going to Edict this Nemesis in response. And then we'll clear this War Boss before it can make a token. Going into our turn, the board is clear. Plenty of types in the graveyard. Looks like a prime spot to slam this Barrogoyf into a red deck. It's going to be a full 5/6. So that thing will be a hefty chunk of life each time it hits. We're going to see a Wasteland, an Amped Raptor cast, into a Loyal Apprentice. None of that should really pose an issue for Barrogoyf to plow through. We're going to draw. We're going to see a DRC. That's some nice backup pressure, especially since we got a bunch of types. That'll be a 3/3. We'll just swing in for 5 now. See that connect. Going back up almost to our starting life total. Bowmaster's going to be a great hit. Clear that Loyal Apprentice. We'll just get that DRC down, since we're definitely going to be spending just 2 mana on our turn. And we pass it back. We're going to see just a land drop. And a new Rabblemaster. We're just going to get a Bowmaster down. Clear that loyal apprentice. They'll make a goblin token, but we'll just eat that with our DRC. Arena of Glory off the top. Land drop number 4 ain't bad. Send in with the team. We're going to see a chump block here. So we're going to deal some damage and go back up to 25 life. Should be about out of range. I was considering casting our Ajani here, but since we only have one white source, it's probably better just hold up Lightning Helix. So we're just going to pass the turn. They're going to try to go to combat, so we're going to Helix the Rabble Master in response. Make sure that's clean. Going up to 28 life. See a Legion Extruder. Taking out our Bowmaster. And we'll see a Wasteland on our white source. Certainly would be annoying in different circumstances, but we should be able to just clean this game up with a Barrogoyf. And we hit the white source off the top anyway. Get in for 10 damage here, putting ourselves back up to 34 life. Sending a few more cards over. Picking up a Ragvan. We're just gonna get that creature in, and we'll pass it back. We're gonna see a concession. That's the end of game 1. Starting out here in round 2, we're gonna be on the draw since we won game 1. We're gonna see a 1-lander without too much of a reason to keep it. This one's gonna go back. But our opponent's keeping their 7. We're going to see a much more reasonable hand with some lands, removal spells, and a Fable. So we're just going to get rid of one of these lands, and we're going to keep this. We're going to see land drop, Lotus Petal, pitch a Spirit Guide for the turn 1 Screaming Nemesis, which is definitely a bit scary into our handful of bolts. But that Molten Collapse off the top should help clear that up. We're just going to hit our land drop and pass it. Opponent's hitting land drop 2. Going to hit us for a couple more points. It's just sending it back to us. That's what we like to see. We'll go grab our Surveil land. Graveyard, Thraben Charm. Not too many creatures in our future. Sudden Edict on the top. Off the top, we'll also clear this thing. So we're going to get a command tower down. Pass it. We're going to see a land drop. And a Lelia cast. That does the same amount as Nemesis, especially if they don't hit a 0 off the top. So we're just going to clear the Nemesis. Take a hit. As they just flip a Shatter Skull Smashing. Things don't look too bad. We can clear this Lelia and start grinding out some value. We're just going to get a land down and Flame Slash this Lelia. Opponent's going to get a Roiling Vortex down. That's a pretty scary one. If we don't hit one of our enchantment removal spells, that could be a game-ending threat. After just a bunch of turns slowly ground out. We're going to go get our tap land. And we're going to see a Barrogoyf off the top. Great hit. Though Roiling Vortex can shut off that one's life gain, so we still need to find an answer for that. But we're just going to slam the Barrogoyf on board now, hold up Bolt for any threats, and see if we can race. That'll be a 5-6. We're going to see a Legion Extruder hit the battlefield, just dealing us a couple of damage. We're going to see a pass back to us. So we're just going to crack this delta. Grab just a Badlands and send it back to us. They're going to activate the vortex in the upkeep, make sure we can't do anything tricky. We're just going to crash in there for 5. See if we can find something off the top. We do find a Broadside Bombardiers. It's a pretty powerful card. We're going to add that to our hand. If we've got any shot of racing, that's probably a big part of it. So we're going to escape this Nethergoyf. Exile in just a few cards. Keep up the pressure. It's a card that we can cast right now that'll put the most damage on board, outside Broadside, which has haste. We're going to see a discharge on our Nethergoyf. Bit of a shame, we were hoping to get that a bit bigger. But we can't grow it out of range with the bolt, because our Delirium is from the Sudden Edict. Opponent's going to crack their Crystal Vein, get Gut down, pass it back to us. So we're just going to clear that Gut in the end step. We're going to take back the turn. They're going to stop us from gaining life. We're going to hit an Auriok Champion off the top. Won't gain us any life, though. We're dead to any bolt off the top, so we're just going to try to push damage. Putting Broadside Bombardiers into play. We're going to swing for 6. Get them down to 7. Picking up a Ragavan. We're going to fling our Barrelgoyf at them, put them down to 2. Get our Ragavan down, and pass it. Got lethal on board through a removal spell. Just gotta hope we don't die this turn. They're going down to 1. We get got by Acclaim the Firstborn on our Broadside. Nothing we can do about that. That'll be the end of game 2. On the play this time against Mono Red, we're going to see a fairly mediocre opener. Only a 1-lander. Not too much actual reason to keep. We're going to mulligan that. And we're going to see a much better 6. Flage is going to be a great card in this matchup. We're seeing 2 lands. We're seeing removal. We got Najani. So we're just going to bottom that Sheoldred's Edict as the slowest card. And try to keep the tempo up with this DRC. Shocking in that Sacred Foundry. Getting our DRC in. Opponent's just going to bolt our DRC. That's perfectly fine. We're going to crack a fetch and get our Badlands down. That Thraben Charm off the top will be a pretty decent removal spell with this Ajani in play. Card we're most scared of here would be a Blood Moon out of them. But good number could be quite dangerous. We're going to see an Aether Hub. We're going to see a Corey Steelcutter. Cool new card. We're going to see a Lotus Petal, making a monk immediately. But I don't think this thing can attack into our cat. We're going to see a Shadow Spear cast. Monk's attacking. We're going to block with the cat, get our Ajani flip. When it gets to our turn, if we can rip a land off the top, we can slam this Mathas. Ajani will immediately clear that monk token, and we're on a pretty stable board. We sadly don't, though. We just see a Fatal Push. We're still going to zero our Ajani, and to keep him healthy, we're going to kill this monk token with a Flame Slash. Passing it back to them. Quarry Steel Cutter is a little hard to use in these mono red decks sometimes, so we're mostly hoping that that one won't trigger too often. We're going to see a Ghostfire Slice on Aurora Johnny. Not much we can do about that. That's pretty sad. But seeing the turn just get passed to us is not. We're going to find a Firewalker off the top. That one costing white is not castable yet. So we're just going to whack for 2. Pass it back, holding up this Thraben Charm and our Fatal Push. We're going to see a land out of the opponent. We're going to see a Rabblemaster cast. The only thing in our hand that can kill that right now is Thraben Charm, but we don't want him getting free goblins, so we're going to take that down. We're going to rip a Long Goodbye off the top. Not as good as a land, getting Mathas in this Flageon line, but that's still a pretty good card. We're going to see a Roiling Vortex cast. That one did a lot of work last game. Let's hope it doesn't do as much this time. We'll see a Spirit Guide pitched and a Pyrostatic Pillar slammed. Opponent stacking up hate pieces. With that Pyrostatic Pillar still on the stack, we're going to kill that Monk token. We're going to use the Long Goodbye here because the Fatal Push is more efficient. We're going to rip a Swords to Plowshares off the top. Not a bad draw. Keep whacking in with that cat. We're going to see a Gut cast. Going to the end step, we're just going to plow that. Roiling Vortex and Pillar are both beaten up on both of us, but we're going to have the threat in play. And like I said earlier, this cutter is not triggering much. Got 2 monks. That was a full 2 for 1, but it's just sitting there now. We're going to whack in with our cat. Meathook Massacre off the top is not going to be doing much, and we're going to pass it back. If they can get any creatures down, this Shadow Spear is going to put them way ahead on life. We're going to see a Volcanic Fissure put into play tapped. And a Soul Guide Lantern cast. It's going to take the Ajani out of our graveyard. Be scary for any future Flage prospects, but I don't think they can afford to leave that thing in play. We're going to find a removal spell off the top. Keep to the plan, I suppose. Whack them for 2 and pass it. As expected, we're going to see a draw there. We're going to see a Den of the Bugbear hit the field. That's a threat. We're going to see a Claim the Firstborn on our cat. They're going to equip the Shadow Spear. We don't want them to gain any life, so we're just going to push that. And they're now going down to 1 life in their upkeep, and they'll be unable to cast any other spells. If they fire up this Den of the Bugbear, we can just Edict it. They're going to play out a Shatterskull Smashing, one of the few spells they actually can cast under their pillar, interestingly. But we're just going to slam this Bowmaster in the end step, and we should have it from there. Put him down to 1 life, and the attack will get there. Alright, starting here on round 3. We've got a match against Slimefoot and Squee. We're going to be up top again. Take a look at our first 7. Pretty weak hand. A lot of 3-drops, only 1 land. This one's going to be sent back. Falling into a much better 6. Fable and Ripples are both going to be great in this matchup. Prismatic Ending's going to be great. Bowmasters I have more faith in than Darcy, so we're going to send that to the bottom. Opponent on the play, they're just going to slam this Deathrite Shaman. We're probably just going to fetch a Plateau and Pending this, hitting a Nethergoyf off the top. We're just going to do that, make sure they don't get ahead on mana. We're going to see a Badlands and a Thoughtseize. I'd expect this to either take Ripples or Fable, being the value engines in a fairly slow matchup. If they take Fable, I'd expect them to have the answer to Ripples. I know they play a few cards that can hit enchantments. And we're going to see the Fable hit the graveyard. That indicates to me they either have Besage, Abrupt Decay, or some other form of removal to hit the Ripples. And they're just going to pass it to us. No threat. We're going to find a Fatal Push off the top. We're just going to get this Ripples in play. If they can't answer this, we're going to start getting free cards. If they can, they're spending their turn on that. We're going to see a second basic swamp. And a Broadside Bombardiers. Certainly a scary card. A little less so when they don't have something to fling. But if they get Slimefoot and Squee rolling, that's a great thing to throw. Going to us. Can't actually take out this Broadside. We do see a Lightning Bolt off the top, but we kind of need lands. I think we're just going to be taking the Sacred Foundry. We're probably just going to cast this Inquisition. Nethergoyf doesn't block it. Expect to hit a fetch land in not too long, which will help us clear this Broadside with this push. That or a Bauble. We're just going to take that Foundry, get an Inquisition in. We're going to see 2 single target removal spells and a Witherbloom command. We're going to take that command. That can take out our Ripples, which we don't want. And we'll pass it back. We'll get our land in and pass it back. The thing we're most scared of here is a cast of Slimefoot, especially if it attacks. But we can probably find a fetch land off of Ripples, or off of our draw. We got 4 looks at that. If we do, we can cast Nethergoyf and Bowmasters to take out the Saproling. So they either have to leave Slimefoot in the graveyard, or send it back to the command zone when they have a Saproling in play. They're just going to swing it 2 for us, though, and make no play. Looks like they probably don't have the mana right now. We're going to draw Seasoned Pyromancer. We're going to see a couple cards off the top. We're just going to take one of these lands. They're basically the same. We're going to take the Mire. We're going to get that in. Get our Nethergoyf on board. Nethergoyf is going to be pretty large with this Ripples going. That's going to be a 5/6. Should probably just eat that Fatal Push we saw earlier here. But that's fine. It can be cast again later, especially since we've got so much fuel. Yep. So this turn we're almost certainly going to, at the start of combat, fetch a Black Source, probably our Badlands, and push this Broadside. Yeah, just get that off field. We're going to let them continue. You're seeing an Underground Mortuary. There's the green source they've been looking for. Mailing over a Once Upon a Time. An opponent's going to get a Chthonian Nightmare on board. This is very strong with Slimefoot and Squee, making those free tokens. Especially if we can put Broadside back in play. Probably shouldn't tap out until we can deal with that. See a couple cards off the top. We're not going to take any of those. We don't need them. We're going to get a Bauble down. We're going to look at their top card. Being an Endurance. I think we're just going to get this Seasoned Pyromancer down. A little risky into the Nightmare, but we kind of have to move our game plan forward. We're going to get an Elemental, pick up a few cards, get a Scrubland down, get our DRC down. That'll certainly be Delirious for now, especially since that Endurance can't be cast on their side yet. We're going to pick up a Ghostfire Slice off the Bauble trigger. We're going to get that Endurance. We're going to see the cast of Slimefoot and Squee, making the Saproling. Broadside can't really attack us here. If it does, we just get to block that one. Over in their graveyard, the only creature they have right now is Broadside. Yep, we're going to see no activate, and they're just going to pass it back to us. Seeing some cards off the top. We probably can't afford to take any of those. Getting a Broadside Bombardiers is pretty nice. That can fling the Seasoned Pyromancer for 5. We've also got the Ghostfire Slice. We're going to just get Mathas down. Get our DRC in. We're going to go to the end step, put in a counter. If they sack the Saproling to get Broadside, we can kill Slimefoot in response, and then they don't have much good to... or after it attacks, because they won't have much good to fling. If they sack their Saproling token, we can kill the Slimefoot in response, and they won't have anything to fling, nor can they bring it back. If they sack the Slimefoot, that's a little worse for us, but then they don't have anything good to fling, and we can just block the Broadside. And our Broadside from there should be able to keep them off of doing too much. See a Lotus Petal cast. Shouldn't matter too much, though it does cast Endurance. And we're just going to see Endurance now. No flash or anything. Get our graveyard tucked back in. Nothing too important in there. There's a Nethergoyf, and it gives us Delirium. But there's no Titans hanging out in there. We're going to see a Nightmare activation. Sacking that Saproling, getting Broadside back in. It's mostly what we were hoping for. We're just going to take out that Slimefoot before Broadside can attack. It can still throw Endurance at us for 5, but we can double block the Broadside and block the Endurance, so it shouldn't be too bad. We're going to see a Galvanic Discharge on our Mathas here. It's a little scarier, but still should be fine. If Broadside throws the Endurance, Endurance isn't dealing 3, and we will for sure survive. We're also going to gain 2 life and pick up a Flage off of that Mathas trigger. That'll be pretty good, getting that Broadside back in the graveyard. We're going to see a Broadside attack. We will block this one. If it wants to throw Endurance at our Pyromancer, we'll be perfectly happy to take that trade. If it doesn't, we're happy to take that as well. It's just going to throw Endurance at our face, putting us down to 5. And it'll trade with our Elemental token. Pyromancer in the graveyard fuels Delirium for DRC, as well it can exile itself to get some things on board. We're going to see some cards hit the graveyard. A removal spell, a Croxa of note, drawing a Raucous Theater for turn. We're just going to get that down. We're going to put this Marsh Flats in the graveyard. Got almost enough escape fodder for a Titan. We do also now have Delirium again immediately. We're just going to get this Flage down, gain a bit of life, make sure we don't die to some burst damage. Get us back up to 8. Get us ready to Flage from the graveyard next turn, and whack for 5. Now this Broadside hiding in our hand should be lethal if we don't see anything crazy. If they hit a creature that's 2 mana or less, they can get Endurance back into play with that Nightmare, which can block our DRC, or block our Seasoned Pyromancer while shutting off Delirium. But then we'll be attacking for 2 with Broadside, 1 with DRC, throw the Seasoned Pyromancer, and that should still be lethal. We're going to see an Ignoble Hierarch at the field, activate Chthonian Nightmare. That'll be putting the Endurance back in play, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Taking away Delirium. It looks like this is cutting away all of the pressure, but the Broadside burst damage for 7 should clean it up here. So we know the only card in hand is Nightmare. We're going to find a Delta off the top. We're going to see a bunch of removal spells. We may as well pay to pick one up. Just making sure. We're just going to clear the Endurance. And we're going to get our broadside down. That'll end the game from here. We'll just attack for 5, throw Pyromancer for another 5. Going into game 2, we're going to be on the draw. We're going to see a fairly mediocre 7. Prismatic Ending is nice. 5 lands with the Pyromancer. We're going to keep it. It's not the strongest, but in a fairly slow matchup it should be fine. Especially with Pyromancer turning some of these lands into more real spells. And a Surveil land in there. We're going to see a Once Upon a Time out of the opponent. And we're going to see a Clothis, God of Destiny. That's a fairly worrying card. That one's a good slow grindy engine. We do have the Prismatic Ending to take care of that, but we might need to spend it to make it to that point. We're going to find a Ripples off the top. After all the work that did game 1, we're pretty happy to see that. It's going to go for a Mortuary, milling over a Mire. Seems like they have enough lands. We're going to see a Swamp. And a Hearse. That card definitely hurts. A lot of our win cons are in the Titans. We're just going to grab a Raucous Theater. We'll mill over our Auriok Champion. Don't think that's what we need right now. Tap and draw, finding a push. We're just going to get a Ripples down. I'm going to see this card eat our graveyard. We're going to see a Wasteland taking out our Raucous Theater. That's probably fine. Ooh, a Witherbloom command to take out our Ripples and give them another Wasteland hurts for sure, though. Milling over a Moloch and a Chthonian Nightmare. This is a pretty good opener out of them, especially with the Hearse. We're going to pick up a Flame Slash. Given that they have a Wasteland here, we're going to get a basic Swamp with this Marsh Flats. I think I'm just going to Prismatic Ending this Hearse. Get some of the pressure both on our graveyard and on our life total off. I'd like to save it for Clothis, but I don't think I can afford to right now. With their Wasteland not working right now, I imagine they're more likely to start pushing their own game plan. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Slimefoot cast this turn. We're going to see Clothis slammed. I'm going to find a Boggart Trawler off the top. Not exactly what we're looking for. We're just going to cast that out. Make sure none of their graveyard can come back. As we do need to start pushing some damage. We're going to see that Prismatic Ending hit out of our graveyard, draining us some life. We're going to see that Wasteland on our plateau. This is going to cut off our Seasoned Pyromancer if we can't find a land. We're going to see a Slimefoot hit the field. Picking up a Swords to Plowshares. We're going to get our Foothills down. No reason not to do that. We're going to go get our Badlands. And slam Mathas on this board. Throwing a bounty counter around. Clothis is going to take away our plateau, which they're going to use to anoint our Mathas. They're going to dash a Ragavan. They're going to swing the team, make another Saproling. We're going to block Ragavan. Get that off board. We're now just behind to their commander. We're going to find a Fable. Probably should have actually put the bounty on the Saproling instead of Slimefoot, especially having these swords in hand. That's a bit of a blunder on my part. Gotta just get this Fable down. We need to move some cards around. Get our Goblin. We're going to see them fetch. We're going to see him just go into combat, send everything in for 5, making a Saproling. We kind of gotta block the Saproling here. We can't afford to just be stuck behind. We'll take that kill, taking 4 damage. There is lethal on board just about. We're going to see an Orcish Bowmasters take out our Goblin, make a token. Now it hurts to loot. We probably still have to. And they're going to clear our Fable anyway. I don't think there are any more draws in the deck that'll get us out of here. We're going to find an Arid Mesa off the top. That certainly isn't it. We're going to lose game 2. Going into game 3, we'll be on the play this time. And we see a pretty good 7. 2 removal spells, 2 1-mana threats. Plenty of lands to play the game on. Plays a little into Blood Moon, but means we can cast Ocelot Pride and Nethergoyf. So we're just going to get this Ocelot Pride down on 1. Passing it over. We're going to see a basic Swamp and a Thoughtseize out of the opponent. Little annoying, but it does mean our Ocelot Pride should be connecting, if they don't do some crazy Lotus Petal things. Don't know what we're going to lose here. Could be the Goyf if they're just worried about damage. They're just going to take away the Flame Slash. They're going to pass back to us. Find a Prismatic Ending off the top. Definitely not a bad draw. We'll poke in for 1, gain our life. And we'll get our Nethergoyf down. Currently a 1-2, but after fetch and surveil land, it could be a 3-4. We're going to get our cat token. Opponent's going to play a Bloodstained Mire. They're going to crack it. Grabbing a Taiga. They're going to get a Nethergoyf down. It'll be a 2-3 for them. Our Prismatic Ending should answer this pretty cleanly, though. We're going to fetch, go grab our Surveil land. We're going to Graveyard a Swamp. We're going to find a Godless Shrine off the top. 4th land isn't terrible, but not really necessary in this matchup. Will let us cast the Titans later, though. We're just going to Prismatic Ending the Goyf, get one of these tap lands down. Crunch in for a couple of damage. I have 4 here. Gaining a life, get our tap land in, make a cat. We're up to 7 permanents. It's going to be 3 more for the double cats. The opponent's just going to get a Hearse down. Well, we were quite worried about that last game. Shouldn't be too much of a problem this time, since we're deploying so much ground pressure. Finding a Celestial Purge off the top, we're just going to push some damage. They're going to eat a couple cards out of our graveyard, shrink the Nethergoyf down to a 1-2 again. I think we're just going to get Mathas down on this board, so we're going to Shock in the Godless. Since we've got plenty of life to spare, we can keep the Ghostfire. And get our 3-3 down, make another cat. And now that we have enough permanents, make another cat. So we do have lethal on board right now, I do believe. Even if we don't put any cards on the graveyard. As well, this Ghostfire Slice in our hand should make it pretty hard to claw back from here. Unless they have something like a Toxic Deluge they've been hiding. And they don't. They're going to scoop it up there. That'll be round 3 of our game, making us 3-0 so far. Round 4. We're going to be playing against a Leovold deck, and we're on the play. This looks like a fairly solid 7. We got 3 lands, we got some removal, Bowmasters and Kroxa. Bowmasters and Leovold have a pretty strange interaction, but we're planning to keep Leovold off the table anyway, so this should be pretty good. Opponent's going to take a mulligan. And a mull down to 5. We're just going to lead, getting our Arid Mesa down and passing it. Planning to fetch a Surveil. Opponent's going to probe us. Opponent's going to fetch. Getting an Underground Sea, and they're going to Inquisition us. taking away our Orcish Bowmaster. Won't have to worry about the Leovold interaction on that then. We're going to go grab our theater. Milling over a Sacred Foundry. Finding an Ocelot right off the top. Not a bad one. Probably better than just casting Croxa. We're just going to get our basic planes in, get that Ocelot Pride down. Our Dismember up, and we're going to pass it. Opponent's going to get a Misty Rainforest down. They're going to Fatal Push our Ocelot Pride. And they're going to pass it to us. We're going to find a Bone Crusher off top, not bad. Get our command tower down. We're just going to cast our Croxa. Get that in the graveyard for a couple turns down the road. We're going to make them discard, dropping a Thoughtseize, and we're going to pass it. Opponent's fetching in the end step, probably getting a Hedge Maze. It's going to be a Mortuary, and they're going to keep it. We're going to see a Windswept Heath hit the field. So they could go get Trop, cast a Leovold, but they're just going to pass it back to us. We're going to find a Ghostfire Slice, not bad. We're just going to pass it back. Keep up our removal. Opponent's fetching in the end step. Grabbing a Tropical Island. We're going to see a Psychic Frog hit the field. We're just going to go to stomp this. See if we can get any free discards here. If they do discard, we can just kill it anyway. They're going to cast a Brainstorm in response. We're going to see a discard of a Mental Misstep. And we're just going to dismember this. We're going to see a Daze in that end step. Not a problem at all. That's just clearing cards, and now our Flame Slash should be able to take care of this. Scrubland off the top is nice. That means with Daze already gone, we can get Mathas down. Get a bounty onto that frog before we slice it. Clear that card. We know the only card in hand is an Underground Sea. So we're going to gain 2 life and get a card here. Finding a Broadside Bombardiers. That'll push some good damage later. We're going to see no action and just passing it to us. We're going to draw a main. Finding a Mire off the top. We're going to swing in for 3. They're going to take it. Play our Mire. We're going to crack that. We're just going to escape this Croxa. Let's go to rot their hand away. We're going to see a Long Goodbye in response. That'll take out our Croxa, and they'll be put down to 9 life. We're going to see a Ponder cast. We do currently have lethal now between the 7 from Broadside, attack plus fling, and Mathas dealing 3. So the better actually find some action. And that all has menace as well, so casting Leovold doesn't help. We're going to see a Delta, and that should seal this game up. Best thing they can do is crack that, cast Leovold, and we just get to push 10 damage. Leovold will give him a card on the way through, but I don't think there are any 0 mana cards that'll protect them in this spot. We're just going to swing lethal. Put him down first to 3. Put him to 0. That'll be game 1. Going on to game 2, we're going to be on the draw. We're going to find a pretty nice hand. 2 lands. Fable to dump this Crocs as a nice interaction. We got removal. We got a bauble. Opponents on the play. They're going to keep 7. We're going to see a Lotus Petal. We're going to see an Inquisition. That'll probably take away our Fable. Unless they've got something there, some removal they're worried about. Nice thing about Croxa and Flage is that they are perfectly castable and still work like spells. Not particularly great ones, though Flage's Lightning Helix is still nice. We're gonna find a Lightning Bolt off top, get our Delta down, and just pass it back. Probably grabbing our Surveil Land, if we don't need to bolt anything. Gonna save this Bauble for a minute, see if we can find a DRC. They're gonna play a Yavimaya and just pass it back to us. So we're just gonna fetch. Get our Surveil Land. Keep Scrub Land on top. Land number 3 is going to be nice in the situation. We're just going to slam this Croxa, I think. Just start rotting what we can. We're going to see a Hymn to Turok hit the graveyard. Glad it's gone at least. We're going to see a Bowmaster cast in the end step. That should be fine. We can still cast the Fable and we can bolt that on the way through. We're going to see a 3-mana play. It's going to be Nadu. That's a little more hazardous. Just going to take a few pokes. Want to make sure we don't get Nadu'd out. I think we're just going to pending that. The 2 damage from Bowmasters isn't too worrying. We're going to see a Windswept Heath flipped. Never great to give them an extra land when they're only on 2, but what can you do? We're going to see that fetch. Probably go grab the Mortuary we've seen. We don't want to cast this Bauble into a Bowmasters until we have time to take that out. We're seeing Undercity Sewers. Milling over a Misstep. We're going to see 3 mana for a Leovold. That'll be in our way a little bit, but we can bolt that. We're going to find a Pyromancer, not quite castable yet. I think we're just going to get this Nethergoyf down. That'll still be fairly sizable. And we're just going to pass it. We're going to see a Thoughtseize. So I'm going to try to bolt this Leovold in response before it can take that away. They will draw a card off this. We're going to see that resolve, indicating they probably don't have a counterspell, since that's a great place to aim one. Probably going to see our Fable going here. We are indeed. They're going to pass it back to us. Finding a command tower off the top. We're just going to push some damage if we can. Play our tower. Get our commander down here. Don't want to draw 2 into this Bowmaster after taking out the army. Just going to get a bounty on there. Things are looking pretty alright. Got Croxa in the graveyard ready to come back and wreak some havoc. Got more board pressure. We're going to see an island out of the opponent. And a Witherbloom Apprentice. That's a scary one. We're going to see a Chain of Smog immediately after. Getting comboed out all in one shot. We don't have any interaction right now. And that's going to be the end of game 2. Going on to round 3 on the play. We're going to see an Ocelot Pride of Johnny hand. That's always a nice synergy. We got Ripples of Undeath ready to fire. We got some removal spells. We generally aren't going to be too concerned about the Witherbloom combo, given how much removal is in our deck. but it can snipe games out from under us sometimes. Just something to keep in mind while playing against this deck. Opponent's gonna mull down to 6. We're just gonna get our Ocelot Pride going with the Scrubland. We're gonna see an Island and a Tamiyo out of the opponent. This is gonna be a pretty nice target to push. That means we can also get our Verdant down and probably get our Surveil land, which rounds out our colors quite nicely. And we get to poke for 1, gaining our life and netting us a cat. Opponent's going to play a basic forest and just pass it right to us. We're just going to crack that, get the Surveil. We're going to keep our broadside on top. That one goes great with the Sajani and attacks for a lot. We're going to poke in for 2. Get our planes down and slam the Sajani on board. Hold up Dismember. Play around Daze. Seems like that's just going to resolve. We're going to get an Ajani, get a cat token. We're going to go to our end step. We're going to Once Upon a Time. We're just going to get another cat token. Almost to the City's Blessing already. We're going to see a Delta, correct. Go grab a Undercity Sewers. Interesting on their turn. Milling over an Uro. That's a pretty great interaction to have. We're going to see a Lightning Greaves cast. We're going to find a Barrowglyph off the top. Pretty nice. Slam this broadside while they're tapped out. If this resolves, it's probably just going to win the game immediately. And we're going to see it dazed. Even still, that's putting them back a turn. While they're under a good amount of pressure, we're going to go to our end step and make more cats. And because we have the City's Blessing, we're going to make us an extra 1. Opponent's going to get their island back down. And a Nadu cast. Pretty scary with a Lightning Greaves on board. Picking up a Psychic Frog. We're going to find a Godless Shrine off the top. If we full swing here, we should be able to push 7 damage, even if our Ajani dies. Opponent's going to block our Ajani. We're just going to kill one of these cat tokens. Get our free damage. That'll flip our Ajani. With their days already being used and being tapped out, we should be able to just slam Mathas. While they're at 4 life, activate Ajani. That should clean up the... Solid Borosing there at the end. The proper constructed deck. That'll be the end of round 4, giving us a 4-0 so far. Alrighty, on to round 5, here in the finals. We are up against our last round opponent again. They have managed to climb back up to challenge me. We've lost the die roll this time around. And we're looking at a fairly weak opening 7. Badlands into DRC is nice with an Urza's Bauble, so we're going to keep it. There is potential here, especially with an Inquisition to follow up. But this hand does have some issues that we'd like to be resolved. But the general speed of this matchup makes me fairly comfortable relying on those surveils. Opponent's going to lead on Aegitaxian Probe, taking a peek at our hand. Go for an Underground Sea, and they're just going to pass it to us. Bolt is not a bad draw. We're just going to get that DRC down. It's going to resolve. We're going to fire off a Bauble, take a Surveil. Graveyarding a Broadside Bombardiers, and we're going to pass it. They're going to play a second land. Get a Tamiyo down. And they're going to fire off a Brainstorm to flip her immediately. Moving a couple cards around. Going to plus the Tamiyo up to 4. Sending it back to us. We're going to crack the bauble. Taking a peek at the Zenith in their hand. We know that can grab Nadu, probably. Finding a Boggart Trawler is a good hit. Picking up another Nethergoyf. We're going to start just by killing this Tamiyo with a Ghostfire Slice. That'll be clean. Taking a Surveil. Keeping that card on top. Bolting in a Boggart Bog. Getting our Nethergoyf down. We got some nice types in here, especially if we can find a fetch land. So we're just going to pass it. No point in attacking with the DRC when it's only swinging for 1. Opponent's going to get a Surveil land down. And they're going to cast out a Fatal Push on our Nethergoyf. Valuing the damage over the potential card selection. Picking up a Plains that we kept on top. We're going to get that down, cast out an Inquisition. To remove any threat and hold up Push and Bolt. Surveil away a Swords. I think we're just going to take that Nadu here, make sure their best draws are offline. And we get to whack for 3 now that we have Delirium. Opponent dropping a Leovold. Going to pass it. We're just going to bolt this in the end step. Trigger our DRC. They're going to pick up a card. We're going to keep a Scrub land on top. We're going to hit for the 3 that DRC has to attack for. And we're just going to get Mathas down, holding up our Fatal Push. We've now got 6 evasive damage on board. So if they don't start doing something, it's looking pretty good. We know about a Toxic Deluge on their side, but that's mostly going 1 for 1, 2 for 1 if you count Mathas. But that's only a pseudo card, so we're fairly happy with that. We're going to find a Thraben Charm off the top. That'll be nice if they manage to start doing Uro things especially. Opponent's going to Thoughtseize us. That's fine. They're going to take away our Prismatic Ending. And going to play another Nethergoyf. Makes sense with the take then. We're going to find an Arena of Glory off the top. I think we're just going to get Mathas back down. We don't need to haste him. Maybe pushing the damage would be nice, but I think we want to leave that in case we need the mana. We're going to get a bounty down on Nethergoyf, and we're just going to send it back. Opponent's going to get a Barrowgoyf down. That'll be one we definitely need to clear. There's no lands in anyone's graveyards, though, so it is just a 4/5. A Thraben Charm can exile both of our graveyards, in the off chance that somehow it ends up in combat with the Goyf. Flage is a pretty great hit. So that means we can cast Flage here, hitting face. That gives us Revolt for the Fatal Push to take down the Barrowgoyf. And we can attack in, putting him down to 1. With a lethal Mathas in play and a lethal Flashback on Flage. We're going to cast that Flage. Hit face. whack for that 3. Mathas has the ever-important keyword of menace here, putting them down to 1 life. We're going to put a bounty on that Barrowgoyf in the end step, and then clear it. Picking up a card immediately. Most of our removal is in red and black, which is why we're leaving up bad lands over the scrub land. Finding an Ajani is a fine hit, in case the game goes longer if they have removal plus counterspell. And they don't. That'll be the end of Game 1. Starting here on the draw in Game 2. We're going to see a 4-lander with the Ajani Broadside interaction. We see a 1-drop in Nethergoyf. This being a fairly controlling matchup, we don't actually need that much removal in our opener. Hand looks pretty good. We're going to see a fetch land out of the opponent. Finding a tower. We're just going to get this Nethergoyf down. And it's going to be misstepped. So playing Nethergoyf without the fetch land potentially plays into Bowmasters, but it also lets us leave this polluted delta to get a Surveil land later. And I would rather hedge for the upside in getting the Surveil land, given that Bowmasters is only 1 card in their deck. Opponent's going to get a Bayou down, and casting out a Witherbloom Apprentice. So we're going to hope they don't manage to find a Chain of Smog before too long. But we don't actually have any removal in hand right now. At least, at the very least, until we can get this broadside down. We're just going to slam the DRC, look to grab the Surveil land for that selection to try to remove this Apprentice so we don't die. Opponent's going to slam a Tropical Island and get Leovold down. We're going to take 2. It's good to know they didn't have the Chain of Smog in hand at the time, unless they were playing around a piece of removal, which is possible. We're going to go grab our Theater. We're going to graveyard a Thraben Charm. We're going to find a Flame Slash off the top. That's pretty nice. So with them not having the Chain of Smog in hand, we can afford to play a little risky. Especially with the sort of lower amount of things happening right now. We're going to Flame Slash the Leovold, get that off board, get our Surveil. DRC is now Delirious, and we're going to get this Ajani down. Well, it is slightly risky in case they were just sandbagging the Chain of Smog, or if they managed to find it off the top. This play has a lot of really high upside with Broadside for next turn, practically winning the game if that works. We're going to see a Ponder. That's up to 4 looks at the Chain of Smog. Getting a Swamp down. They're going to cast out a Nethergoyf. Finding an Ocelot Pride off the top. Not bad. That'll let us do a double spell alongside our Broadside Bombardiers here. If all of this works, we can kill both their creatures by throwing the cat at Witherbloom, getting Ocelot Pride down. But we're going to see an Anoint on our Broadside, making sure we can't flip the Ajani that easy. Not too big an issue. We're still attacking with DRC and our cat. Can't really block the cat without flipping our Ajani, which kills the Apprentice for free. So they're going down to 11. We'll get our Ocelot Pride down, and we'll pass it. dropping a fetch land from the opponent. That is enough mana to get Leovold back down. But it seems like they're holding up interaction, passing it back to us. Finding a bolt off the top is pretty nice. We're just going to go directly to combat. Swing with DRC on our 2 cats. They still can't really block these without flipping our Ajani. And even if they do, this bolt should be able to help things out. Does seem like they're going to be blocking our cats. They'll be going down to 8 life. Both our cats die, and our Ajani flips. At this point now, I can activate my Ajani, take out the Nethergoyf. We can shock in this Godless, no reason not to play around days. We'll try to get Mathas down. We're going to see a wash away, that's perfectly fine. We've already got a pretty insurmountable pressure. And we've got this bolt in hand to make sure they can't combo out. We're going to see a fetch. Probably grabbing that mortuary we've been seeing. Indeed we are. Opponent's going to graveyard an Inquisition. Probably a good call. Opponent is slamming Leovold onto the board. We are going to bolt this Apprentice in response, getting a Surveil. We could aim this at face, because the 3 there, plus the 3 from DRC, plus a Ajani activation is lethal. But that opens us up to some sort of counterspell. Not sure exactly what it would be with a single Bayou, but I don't trust it regardless. Finding a Pyroblast off the top, that lets us still go for lethal. We're going to just aim this at the Leovold. They'll pick up a card. And if they don't have any interactive spells for their Bayou, we should be all good here. We're going to go to combat, swing in for 5, putting him down to just 3 life. And we will 0 our Ajani to deal that last 3, putting them all the way down to 0. And that'll be the end of this tournament. Wrapping up 5-0, defeating all of our opponents. Been a wonderful set of games. Going into our outro thoughts, everything in this deck felt super solid. All the lands worked out, all our 1-drop threats, and our win cons over here applied some great pressure. Mathas held everything together. We didn't die to things randomly outside a Witherbloom combo due to all this pile of removal. These Arena of Glory with Flage and Croxa especially did a lot of heavy work. Ripples did a lot of heavy work. The value kept rolling. Everything here felt pretty great. We didn't actually run into Ketramos, which is what a good amount of these sideboard cards are for. So we did have Silent Gravestone be essentially dead this whole league, but we brought in most of these at some point along the way. We didn't actually play into many white decks, but we brought that in for Arabella. Didn't play too much graveyard decks, but we did bring in Ghost Vacuum for... I think I brought it in against Leovold in case of Uro, just as a backup, because that card is very good. But that helped a lot into Slimefoot and Squee. Firewalker and Auriok Champion helped a whole lot. Overall, everything felt pretty great here. Didn't miss Thoughtseize. The 1 Surveil land did great. No real notes. Everything here is very solid. Solid colors, solid removal, solid threats. Mathas holding everything together up at the top. Make sure we never die. I'll be signing off here. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.